Ms. King?
Here.
Ms. Jackson?
Here.
Ms. Cordez?
Here, quorum was present. This meeting was called at the request of Treasurer Kavanaugh and Trustee Jackson. I'll turn it over to Treasurer Kavanaugh.
And I shall turn it over to Linda. I was in support of this meeting.
Trustee Jackson.
I called a special meeting because we received an email that had the resignation of the previous attorney, Jeff Clark, Cummins, McCory, and Davis. And attached to that email, and also in that email was the selection of an interim attorney. I sent Supervisor Kovacs an email that said, I objected to the unilateral selection of an interim attorney. So I called this meeting so that we could take action on that, but the first thing I'd like to do is to make a motion that we accept the resignation letter from Jeff Clark, submitted on behalf of Cummins, McCory, Davis, and Acro, PLC, effective August 2nd.
Support.
Motion made by Trustee Jackson, motion seconded by Treasurer Kavanaugh. Is there really a need to accept a resignation?
To the chair.
I'm just asking for a point of clarification first from the clerk.
I don't think there's any point in keeping him on as an indentured servant.
I don't think we
So,
can.
no. So
I'm just
I
wondering if it's something that we have to do. Or
I
it's
think-
already done.
it's a formality.
Very good. Trustee Taylor.
And I was going to say, the last contract that I saw with Clark, it did request that either party give a 90-day notice for termination of the contract without cause. And I just think to cross our T's and dot our I's and for public record that we do officially as a board accept the resignation. So it's a matter of record as to the day that we accept it, and that there's no question that the contract has been terminated as of that date. It's just cleaning it up, I think.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
To the chair.
Trustee Von Rick.
So my question would be whether or not, knowing that the contract does state a 90-day out clause, does that change the clerk's opinion regarding whether or not we need to take the resignation? And what about any pending legal matters? If we terminate the contract or accept the resignation as of today, what happens for legal representation until we do appoint an interim legal counsel?
Well, I believe you're asking two questions.
Yes.
I spoke with Jeff before he tendered his resignation, and he said that there are no pending cases that would require immediate action from our general counsel. And in the meantime, I think that is why we have on the regular agenda the approval and we have that on, selecting an interim general counsel, and we're going to act on that tonight.
I've also confirmed that there are no outstanding or open matters other than the light ordinance that we've been working on. That would be the only one that needs a handoff to another attorney. The other cases that Mr. Clark has worked on have been matters that are handled through MMRMA, and they're appointed by MMRMA. I haven't seen that contract, though. I'm glad that you were able to find one, because we looked all over the board.
It was dated 1999.
Where did you find it at?
I'm relentless with my research.
Where did you find it?
Somebody gave it to me when I asked for it.
I'm curious because I went to the clerk's office, we looked for it, I looked online, we couldn't find one.
The clerk's office had one.
Oh, you did have a contract with Cummings McCoy?
I don't know what you have. What were you
Just an old contract from 1999. I'm assuming that's the last one that was ever revisited or amended. I don't know, that's all I have.
And where'd you get it from?
I assumed it came from the clerk's office.
We never found one.
And I don't think 1999 would be the most current because we broke off part of our legal business and assigned. 05.
Yeah, I actually found those minutes too from 2004, and I have all those minutes from those meetings as well. And I didn't see any discussion of Jeff Clark's contract at that time either from the 2004 meetings.
To the chair.
We couldn't find meetings or contracts. I was looking.
Yeah, I found the meetings, yeah, I have them.
I found the
We have
meetings
them.
August something, 2004.
No, but yeah, November 2004, the minutes from, yeah.
But we didn't
I
find
don't
any.
actually have it with me.
We didn't find any backup to it, so if you have a copy of the contract, I'd love to have a copy of it.
I'd be happy to send it to you. I just assumed that you would have it, the clerk would have it, that it would be a matter of record. I'm surprised that it's not on file someplace.
To the chair.
Sometimes that happens.
Okay.
Trustee Jackson.
In those minutes, there were changes in hourly rate, but no formal review of the contract for, because I actually wanted to see the previous RFP, and nobody was able to come up with the previous RFP.
Yeah, we looked for that too. I looked for that as well, so. Okay, so the motion is to accept the resignation of Cummings, McClory, Davis, and Acho as Township General Counsel. Motion was made by Trustee Jackson. The motion was seconded by Treasurer Kavanaugh. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bonner?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes?
Ms. Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Christie, yes.
This is a special meeting.
Ms. Kangas?
Yes.
That meeting
Ms.
is
Caston?
Yes.
Ms. Colbert?
Yes, motion passes.
For this meeting?
Was there anything else that you'd like to discuss as part of the special meeting, Trustee Jackson?
Yes, I would.
Standing meeting.
Given that I objected to the unilateral selection of an interim attorney, I actually thought, and I consulted with a couple of people, that what made the most sense was to expand the scope of our existing attorney, who already knows the people in the township, knows the players, and has firsthand knowledge of most of the issues and probably secondhand knowledge on others. So given that, I make a motion to expand the scope of services of Gianmarco Mullins and Horton PC to include all legal services formerly provided by Cummins, McCrory, Davis, and Acro PLC at an hourly rate of $125 in the interim until the RFP process is complete and a new attorney for Redford Township is hired.
Support.
Motion has been made by Trustee Jackson. The motion was seconded by Trustee Kangas. Questions or comments from the board?
To the chair?
Trustee Taylor.
To me, it just makes the most sense to go with John. He's been here for 13 years. He's already under contract. He already knows all the department heads. He knows most everybody here in the township, since his rate is comparable to what Cummings was charging and considerably less than what Plunkett and Cooney were offering. And it's a temporary situation. It just makes the most sense. I think that bringing in a brand-new attorney, we'd be looking at obviously higher fees with our hourly rate, but there's a learning curve that would end up costing a bit more. Them learning their way through the township and the issues that we have going on. So I'm of the opinion that John Clark is the best fit for us in the interim until we can finish the RFP and select a new service.
To the chair.
Trustee Bonner.
Well, I have quite a few questions. For one, I think we have to be careful because we really wouldn't be retaining the services of John Clark. This would be expanding the scope of Gianmarco, correct?
Correct.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Clark, I know you're here and maybe you can come to the podium for this, but isn't your specialty labor? Would you be our attorney for general legal matters or would it be somebody else in the firm?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I've got almost 24 years of experience in municipal law, which includes general municipal law. In addition, I have several partners that do nothing but general municipal law, including Steve Hitchcock, who you all met when we were talking about retiree healthcare issues. So we have a whole stable of attorneys who are able to handle all kinds of matters depending on the circumstance.
Okay, and do those individuals, because one of the arguments here seems to be that this would have increased familiarity with the township, but the person that we work with is you, and you wouldn't necessarily be doing this. So if our goal is to, as a board, that we want to have a fresh start and look what our options are that are out there, it seems like unless you were the one doing the legal services, we would still be going through a learning curve with a new firm.
Well, I mean, certainly the issues that I'm sure the township deals with, I have the expertise to address. I will be the point person on those matters, and if there's something that I believe needs to be referred to somebody else in my firm with the expertise, then I would make that referral and that person would handle it. No different than any other attorney who would come in on an interim basis. That person presumably can't do everything, and there's certainly things that are unknown, things that come up at all times. So I believe I have a solid foundation to be the go-to person. In the event something comes up that is something that I feel there's somebody else in my firm who could specialize and handle, I can simply make that referral. That happens all the time. And that hourly rate, regardless of who it is the $125. But there's no difference in rate depending on expertise.
So the rate, that was going to be my next question. So the rate is 125.
All the way across.
So we don't have that in writing right now. We don't have a proposal. We don't have a proposed scope of services. Yet Trustee Jackson knew that that would be your rate for other services. So even though we don't have anything from your firm to kind of state that fact, can we really pursue expanding a contract without having terms of what that expansion would look like?
Well,
It's
yeah,
kind of funny, because that's almost a legal question in its own way, right?
To the chair.
We'll wait for the answer from Mr. Clark.
Okay.
It would be on an as-needed basis. So if there's a service that's required, it would be, I'm just telling you right now, it would be 125 hours. That's the rate that I do all my work for the township for. And that would be the rate for all these other services provided.
Trustee Jackson?
To Trustee Bonner, the reason I specifically said all legal services formerly provided by Cummins, McQuarrie, Davison, Acro,
Actually.
is what? It's Atro.
Atro.
I spelled it wrong. Is it
Atro.
Atro.
But Atro.
It's because the contract that we had completely spelled out all of the legal services. So as opposed to trying to put all that in a motion, we can just go back and refer to all the services that they formally handle as general counsel.
To the chair.
Trustee Kangas?
I am in favor of using John Clark and his firm as interim. I think the key word here is interim, and hiring somebody outside for the interim purpose of doing an RFP seems like extra stuff, extra money, and it doesn't seem like good practice. John Clark and his firm has been working for the township. I don't even see why we would need another contract specifying it's as he said, as state as needed. We're already under contract with him, and I've never heard of a legal firm turning down extra work, even if it's outside of their contractual, what they're bounded by contract. It just makes good business sense, and most organizations, when they need an interim person to fill in, they go within to find somebody who's been with the organization. So I am definitely in favor of asking John Clark and his firm to step in as interim attorney while we work through the RFP process. And looking at the RFP process, I know that maybe not tonight, but I have a lot of questions on the wording and definitely want to go through the actual language of the RFP. So I'm definitely not prepared to have this RFP go out yet. So that's my
That item is on the agenda for the regular meeting at 7. It's item number 4.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Or Christine?
I support Ms. Jackson's motion in that it is in the interim. I've seen Steve Hitchcock come before the board on many occasions, and our alternative would be to keep someone here for 90 days that doesn't want to be here. So I support it on the interim
basis.
Anybody else? Here are my thoughts. I keep thinking about the board's directives all along as we've worked on boards and commissions. And we want new people. And we want people that none of us are tied to, or that does not have any sort of obligation to any one of us. We also talk about getting input from those people who use the services of our attorneys. And while you may have, I don't want to use the word superficial experience with our attorneys, you do not have day-to-day experience with our attorneys. That actually comes from our department heads. They are the ones who are intimately involved with counsel, with legal work, with requests, with ordinance, with changes. That's their job. This morning, at the team meeting, we did have the opportunity to talk about what is happening, what will happen with the search for a new firm, what do we do in the interim. And frankly, I'm going to stand by my department heads who are not in favor of having Gianmarco be the general counsel even on an interim basis. That came from our department heads, not from you who are not involved. This came from the people who help run the day-to-day operations of the township. I trust them. They felt that they would like to have the opportunity to work with a larger firm, and one that doesn't have any connections. John Clark, whilst, there are opinions that he is a good labor counsel, that he's been here for a while. Those are certainly things to consider. But this board has said in the past, they want new people. You've said to me privately that you want an RFP. What you're doing is trading off somebody who has 40 years of experience for somebody who has 15 years of experience and simply changing the name. You aren't being fair to what you outlined, which is getting input from the people who need and use the service and looking for somebody new that can provide the service, who has no tie whatsoever to the township. There's value in that. This is bigger, more important than the way that we've acted with new people who want to be appointed to a board or a commission. The way that you have acted with the selection or re-election, reappointment of some folks has been way more cautious than what you are attempting to do by simply assigning over work to Mr. Clark. I don't believe that that is in the township's best interest, and I don't believe it's in this board's best interest. I especially don't believe it's in the best interest when I listen to the department heads whom none of you consulted with. None of you. Trustee Kangas.
I'm going to take a little exception with what you said.
Okay?
We are not hiring legal counsel.
You are.
No, we're looking for an interim. The RFP is designed to search out, look for, and seek representation. What we are doing, what this board, my impression of what this board is trying to do is to make this process smoother. We don't want somebody new coming in until proper processes and procedures have taken place, which is an RFP. With the RFP, we use that. Then we interview, then we look at the proposals that are sent forward. Then we hire the new firm, if that's where we go, to represent us. Right now, we're just discussing what we're going to do in the interim. And for the interim, while we're working through the RFP, while we're looking over proposals, it just makes good common sense, especially since Jeff Clark has already stated we had no pending legal matters, that we go with John Clark. Instead of having to bring somebody else new in, while we're trying to do an RFP, it looks like we're hiring them, and the RFP is just superficial. So I stand with what this board wants to do. I don't think that we are disrespecting the department heads. I think we're trying to have proper organizational processes and procedures by honoring the RFP process.
I understand your position, trustee Kangas, that's a matter of opinion.
To the chair.
And I can appreciate your opinion.
To the chair.
I'm going to go back to the comment that I made, that not one of you consulted with the department head, outside of maybe Treasurer Kavanaugh, who clearly has an opinion on Gianmarco. You didn't ask any of them, and they're not in favor.
I don't understand what you mean, that they were not consulted about what.
To the chair.
As to whom they would like to work with.
Well, isn't that part of the RFP process? I read in your RFP that they are included in looking over the proposals and everything. Again, I think we're talking about different apples. We're all talking about apples, but we're splicing hairs. We are not dismissing or disrespecting department heads regarding the hiring of a new firm. If we are looking to hire, if we're looking at Plunkett and Clooney to be our new attorneys, and the interim is just a way to get them to come in, get familiar with everything, and then hire them, then that's disrespecting the RFP process.
And what would make you think that would be?
Because I don't understand why we can't take a step back, go through the RFP process, allow Johns Clark firm, if we need general counsel, they can handle general counsel till we get through the RFP process, and hire a new firm for that process. I don't understand why anybody would be offended that we want to do the right thing with the RFP process. It seems kind of, if anybody's offended by it, I would be surprised. That doesn't seem...
I believe that you have 100% support from the department heads, from the public, and from everybody on this board regarding an RFP. No one will argue that. That is what we and you have been talking about since you were elected. Transparency. Having a method in place and having people in place that we can all support. What is so hard is that the department heads that I work with on a daily basis have suggested that Gianmarco is not the firm that they want to work with. I understand expediency. I understand the challenge of bringing in a new firm. I get all of that.
For 1 month?
Is it going to be 1 month or is it going to be 2? Or 3? Is it going to be 3? And who knows? It could take a while, right? But if we want to bring in new people who have the expertise, a 260-person firm versus a 60-person firm,
Yeah.
I think it's something to consider.
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
On August 4th, on Friday, you entered into an agreement with Plunkett and Cooney before you even had a meeting with your department heads. On Tuesday, you have your meetings, and we've been told as trustees, we're not welcome at those meetings. We asked back in February, when we were first elected, can we attend these department head meetings so we can stay abreast of what's going on in the department? And you said no, we couldn't come there. It would make the department heads uncomfortable if we were there. Trustee Jackson has asked about when are the meetings going to be and can she attend, and she's got no response back. So if we're going to be able to have open dialogue with our department heads, then we need to be allowed to attend those department head meetings weekly. If you're talking about transparency, you already entered into an agreement with an attorney without consulting the board, without approval from the board, and obviously you did it on Friday, which is several days before you even met with your department heads. How do they feel about you hired their legal expertise according to their letter? I don't see where any of that is transparency in getting the input of the board before you made a decision of who you thought was the best legal counsel. So in all fairness, the board, the elected officials of this township who represent the people of this township, have the right to make the decision of who they think is the best legal counsel to represent this township. The 4 trustees on this board represent over half of the elected officials of this township. We don't discount the opinion of the department heads, but not a single one of them reached out to any of us to say what their opinion was, and we weren't at that meeting to hear what their objections were. So The people have to trust the people that they elected to make the best decision for this township. And I am still of the opinion that using John Clark's firm in the interim is the best decision for this township.
To the chair, Treasurer Kavanaugh, hold on 1 second. To be clear, there is no contract with Plunkett Cooney.
I didn't
There
say
is-
contract, it says right here, you have hired us.
Right, it is, they are not hired. There has been no exchange. There has been nothing signed. There is no money. There is nothing in writing other than that letter. That letter says hired.
Yeah,
I get it, but you'll notice that it's not signed, and it is item number 4.
it's not
Unfinished
signed because
business.
they want the board to sign it.
To the
It says
chair,
that they're
because
they're trying to confirm that you have the oral authorization to follow what
And
it
I,
says.
right, and I don't have the oral authorization, which is why it's in front of you. Okay,
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
For the record, I know many legal firms. I am married to, or was married to my ex-husband, who's an attorney. He knows people in Plunkett Cooney. I worked for the Court of Appeals for 12 years. I know and I'm close to a lot of firms. So let me just put it out there for the record, and I do believe, Madam Supervisor, that you know a lot of firms as well, because you did a lot of fraternizing with them. So I know a lot of people. I think even possibly Trustee Kangas will know a lot of firms as well, because her husband is an attorney. So yes, I do know Gianmarco. I think because it's $125 an hour, I think it would be great to have him as interim, because it's going to cost us less should we have any kind of cases come up. So for interim, I do believe this is probably the best thing for us at this time. Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
For Christie?
This is not a perfect situation. I view it as an emergency situation. And I think we're going with Gianmarco really by default, because they're who we have now. And it won't cost us another $10,000 retainer fee that Plunkett Cooney asked for. And they asked
1,000. It's 1,000.
1,000. Okay, well, 1,000. All right, thank you for,
It's not expensive, buildings that.
no bit. But I think that they're asking for that because they're unfamiliar with it, that we don't have that relationship with them.
And I thought that's what we wanted. I thought that was the direction that the board wanted. New people, new relationships, not people that are being accused of fraternizing. I'm not even sure what that means.
That's right, I'm sorry.
I'm open to hearing, so.
We can talk about it at some point.
Oh, no, I think since you said I was fraternizing with attorneys, I shouldn't be there.
Should we move on?
To the chair.
Should take
They're just curious.
Point of order.
Nice try. Trustee Bonner. Of course.
I just want to say, I just want to be clear. I think the motion on the table is regarding expanding the scope of services for Gianmarco, right?
Correct.
The issue or decision regarding Plunkett Cooney is not in any way connected to that.
It's not.
We can make a decision to not expand services for Gianmarco and still choose not to vote Plunkett Cooney as interim legal counsel.
That's true.
Right? Those two things are not connected. I was very undecided on this issue based on the, up until the point that you brought up the issue with the department heads. I think it's really important to follow the lead of the people who are doing the day-to-day work in this township, which is the department heads. And if we're going to be a unified team, or we're going to present a unified front, the fact that they have expressed to you, who is the person that they would most directly express that to, that they have concerns about expanding Gianmarco's services, even in an interim basis, is concerning to me. And I would have to not support the motion to expand the services based on the fact that our department heads don't feel comfortable with that.
Then we should vote.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? No questions or comments for Christie? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Christie, yes. Ms. Kangas?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Bonner?
No.
Ms. Koblars?
No. Motion passes. Are there any other issues that you would like to discuss as part of your special meeting that is posted? Nothing else, motion to adjourn would be appropriate?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn is made, second, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, motion passes. Don't go anywhere, we have 6:30.